Welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. I'm Calen Carpenter. With me is my partner, co-host, and father, Brandon. But before we get started, for those of you on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. You can shut off the notification bell if you want. Facebook, like, comment, share, and of course, on all platforms, spread the word to your friends. So now to the opening notes. This is recorded on the last day of January. So my mother's birthday just passed us by a little over a week ago, and her beloved pug also had a birthday just a few days ago. And we have recorded a few longer episodes, which gave us a few weeks lead time. So this episode will actually be airing on Valentine's Day in 2021. I originally had another topic in the queue, but after seeing my calendar up on the wall when I was preparing for publication, I decided to switch things up. So if you're on Facebook, you saw my message. I literally decided to do this 24 hours after talking to Dad and without his knowledge. Oops. So it happens. Here we are. I wanted to, but before I get started, here's kind of where I was going with it. I grew up seeing all the extra work my mom and my grandmother went through, helping my dad and my grandpa when I was little. Then I began to help out, and it eased their physical workload. However, even then, I know how much they still contributed and provided, and still do to this day. So I wanted to take this conversation and provide it as a happy Valentine's Day message and a spouse appreciation opportunity. Before I presented the agenda, I wanted to say a thank you to my mother and my grandmother for all their years of hard work and the support they gave and still give all of us boys. Not only was my mom my teacher in school, she and my grandmothers were some of the biggest sports fans out there for me and my brother. And now they're my loudest cheerleaders back home. Along with the animals or completing projects and even getting through another yearly event, they were always there. So as the son and grandson of two amazing role models, thank you. And all the spouses out there, on behalf of your farmer or your rancher, thank you for your unending support and love that you provide to them and the remaining 2% of our American population. Without you, the world would be a much darker place. But with that, I'll lay out the topics, and I thought we'll get started. There's two big things that the women in our life have done, and that's support us by helping within the business, and then also their specific roles on the ranch. So when it comes to the business partner side of it, they're not only a big supporter, they also become the tool and parts runner. They are the record keepers, the vaccinators. Sometimes the people going, hey, that's a little more expensive than we thought. Let's pull it back a little bit. So they're the people behind the checkbook and balancing the bills. And then, of course, a shout out to my grandmother with her god awful names on horses. And then the roles on the ranch. When I started becoming more of the physical laborer, just like my brother, they became the cooks, the business secretary and phone receptionist when people called for horses. Often the times when we are showing the horses or riding them and depicting what the ability of those horses are, they're the salesperson next to the customer, talking them through what's the process, what our philosophy is, and whatnot. They are professional gate openers or blockers, looking at you, Grandma. And a lot of the times they are simply just another hand. So with that, we will welcome my mom, Lisa. And I didn't know this until we just got started, and she wanted to join. So we'll get started.
I better make sure that you guys were telling the truth.
Yeah. Okay. I always tell the truth, Mom. You know that.
I believe you.
Wait a minute. I'm your biggest fan.
So normally I ask Dad what his thoughts are. What were yours on that, Mom?
On what you just said?
Yeah.
I thought that was really nice. I was.
Oh, okay.
On the other side of the door.
Oh, gotcha. So what'd you think about the comment about the god-awful names that Grandma gives? Because I'll start with that one.
Careful.
Grandma has very unique names. It's true.
Like, I have never been
we
political about this at all. I have been upfront with Grandma all the time. I said, Grandma, that's a horrible name. I hate it. Why are we doing this?
and Grandma's just trying to find unique names, and some of them are, I think, better than others, but it does give us a good chuckle once in a while.
Okay, what is the most god awful name that Grandma came up with a
Has a
horse?
tail.
Horse. That wasn't an actual
That wasn't a
registered
name.
name. That was your grandpa teasing your mother
Yes.
or your grandmother about her god awful names and horses.
No, there was. So those who don't know, we raise registered Tennessee walking horses. So when you register the horses, Dad actually just did a video of this with our business partners in Dunroven Ranch this past week, and we made a short video of it, and it's also posted just a free floating clip on our YouTube page. But when you register the horse, you have to give it a name, and if it's coming from
unique name, it can't be a replica.
Right. And so if it comes with a Hashknife brand, it is Hashknife like Golden Trapper. I think that's Flax's name, right? His official name.
Gold Trapper. Yeah.
Gold Trapper.
Hashknife Gold Trapper.
Gold Trapper. That's his registered name. Dad just showed one, Hayhook Silver Envy, the newest filly and newest addition to the family. She will have a hayhook on her shoulder, and that's her registered name. Grandma comes up with some very unique ones, and I don't know what the worst one was. There was something about like prom king. That's what it was.
That's the one your dad gives her the biggest
that is
trouble
the most
over.
horrendous name.
I mean, and then
Now,
of course there's the
Grandma's
fuse one. Like, I'm very superstitious. We've discussed this before with naming horses. She's named one Aphrodite, or no, it wasn't Aphrodite. It was
Venus, wasn't it?
Venus. Yes. What's Grandma? What is Venus in the Roman world? It is the goddess of war. Why would we put that on a horse? That is the worst way to start its life off. It's like calling it Buckaroo or Satan. That's the worst thing that could happen. You're just waiting for something to occur.
Here's the thing. She said in her defense, and I said the same thing. She goes, no, Venus is the goddess of love.
Right.
Depends on which culture you're looking at. So yes.
Yeah, but
he's right.
There's still that annotation there.
Also, what's hard is we try and look through the names of, the previous
past ones.
Yeah. And try and pull some of the names from that, but make it unique. And then also make it so you can shorten it so that it's an easy name to call them. Like Envy, 1 or 2 syllables, Flax. Much easier than if Bocephus.
Bucephalus.
Oh, Bucephalus. That's
we don't name him Hank Williams Jr.
Oh yeah. Yes, that would be.
And we didn't name that horse. That was a horse we purchased.
Evidently, I'm thinking of going out and having a party.
And actually, his name was Black Gold's Bucephalus.
Yeah.
Which is after Alexander the Great's horse. We did not name him, but his name got shortened to Bo.
But that's the whole thing is, you don't want it really long. And so Grandma, it is hard to find a unique name, and she goes outside of the ancestry sometimes to find
outside the universe, not the ancestry. Who names a horse Prom King, for God's sakes?
Oh, your mom. She's going to shake her head.
There was another one called Pocket Change.
No, I didn't think that was bad.
That one wasn't too bad.
Because he was shiny. It wasn't that the reason?
Yeah. Anyhow, sorry.
We digress.
Went down a small little rabbit hole there for a second.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's
fun.
naming horses. It's naming. It's some of the things that you rely on somebody else to do. So, yeah.
Well, and the other thing too,
it's kind of fun to introduce
please go ahead.
my lovely bride, and
ranch boss,
and also school marm, and young lusty. What else do I call you? There's a lot of other things that that's probably better.
But so I guess we'll get started with that. Is the help within the business. I mentioned Mom is also the teacher. She was my teacher and my brother's teacher, along with always helping with fundraising events. She still does that with school as one of the teachers there. And then her other full-time job is helping us on the ranch. So what's some of the hardest things for you, Mom, that was trying to balance all of that? Because you do a lot.
Probably like time away from school. So there are about 4 or 5 days every year I miss when we're moving the girls back home from the summer pasture, when we're separate, we separate the calves and take them to town. worming, preg testing. And so, I want my sub to have an easy day. So I always prep my kids, usually a week in advance. I start working on them. And inevitably, so what are you going to be doing? Well, we're moving cows, so it's going to be a long day.
And weaning and shipping.
And we're weaning. And
I'm taking my day off so I can go work some hard labor real quick.
Yeah. They kind of look at me like, really? You're taking a day off for that? Well, that's kind of what I do.
And branding is a bad one because you're normally
it's always on graduation weekend.
Yeah.
And so I miss a lot of my graduating seniors because we're branding. And if possible, we try and make it so it's not on the graduation day. But this year I got to go because of COVID. So that was good because it was a later graduation date than usual.
You've also done at times where if I remember right, we've done branding and then we literally, it wasn't like, hey, sit down, eat afterwards. It was, okay, we're done. We're headed home. And you're getting into the shower as soon as you get to the house and getting ready so you can go out.
That's if we didn't have anybody helping us or a crew that, you got to feed them. Yeah.
So that's probably the hardest thing. And then,
well, but wait a minute.
But really the top hardest thing would be working cattle with your spouse.
Well, most spouses that'd be true, but for me, it's got to be like a dream.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for.
Yeah.
If that blew anybody's eardrums out, I am so sorry.
That's a dream come true, Calen.
I don't get it. What the hell are you guys talking about?
So why didn't you stop that cow? Didn't you stop that cow from going down the lane?
She's only bluffing.
You wanted that cow to go down the lane. No, I didn't. I changed my mind. Okay. When did you tell anybody you changed your mind about that? Well, I thought about it.
I said hold that. I said hold that cow.
Yeah, as she's going through the gate. I mean, yeah.
Well, sometimes they're move fast. I anticipate these deals.
Oh yeah. Well, why can't you figure out what I'm thinking? My dad could. Yeah.
He and I could work cattle and never say a word to each other on my grandpa's, and never a word had to be spoken, and we just got it done.
I think that's
don't think
that's
I
something
could get my ass chewed a lot as a kid, but
oh yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like professional gate opener or blocker, and we've had that running joke too. And Grandma, we always said, stands in the gate to try and get Grandpa's attention. And I think there was a comment as Grandpa was preparing to enter the next life where she said to somebody, don't think I didn't realize what I was doing at times. There were a day or two that I needed to get his attention. I did it solely on purpose.
Oh, I don't doubt that. That's no funny.
You on that? Make sure she's not used to this, so we got to make sure that her.
Oh yeah, your phone's off.
Phones are off of. Yeah, it's off.
The next part, I always say that you're a tool runner or a parts runner. Would you agree?
Oh, that's always fun. Oh my God. And before cell phones, it was even more fun.
God, that was brutal.
Because you would say, okay, now go to the hardware store and I need this.
Or wherever you need parts.
Or he would call me. I need this. All right. And then you get there and I'd have a cell phone, but no camera.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, these are my 15 choices. Which one should I get? Well, get the right one. Which would be the right one? And then you try and figure it, long distance. Sometimes it was successful. Sometimes we got extra parts that we didn't need. But you can always use them some point.
Or take them back.
And then now with cell phones, take a picture, send it. So then I go to the parts person and I say, here, this is what I need. And I give them my phone. Oh, that looks like just whatever.
Parts running for anybody is the worst, because usually you need that. If you're sending somebody to town for a part, you need that part
now
before it broke, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say it's always an emergency. It's never like, oh, if you swing by, would you mind grabbing this?
Right. We'll get this on the next time to town. No, you are on a special trip to town. You're going to drive a 2.5, 3 hour round trip as fast as you can. And that's just the driving part. That doesn't count getting to the place to go, having the part in your hand, possibly, or you're sent to get the part while I'm taking the part off.
Yeah.
So you don't even have the part.
Well, and you're bringing up a point too, like, hey, go to John Deere. That's just a generic one. Go to John Deere, and grab this part. Well, John Deere doesn't have it. Okay, let me see if I can run
Right.
over to like Case or, you know, Big Sky Motors
That
or
was-
something like that that
Pharma
might
or
have it.
whatever, yeah.
That was like when the hydraulic hose on the tractor busted.
yeah.
There's a good example. That was
And
last year?
no, it's been a few years. And John
When you're
Deere
retired,
wanted-
time tends to just kind of bleed together. Sorry, Mom. Please pardon,
It
Dad.
does. It does.
What year is it?
I'll let you know when you can come out of your hole. Okay. All right. But Dad said, okay, we need this part. And he called around. John Deere had one. And he said, oh, that's a lot of money. And so there's a hose place in town.
A chunk of hose 18 inches long with
And
3 fittings.
And they can put it together with the fittings that you need. So he talked to him and he said, hey, this is what I need. Okay. So I know where the place is. We've been there multiple times. I drive in. Oh, we've moved. Oh, crap. Okay. So then Google comes out and they're only like, you know, about a half a mile down the road. Went down there, chatting with the guys. Well, it's going to be a little while. I can put it together, but I just need a few minutes. And I said, I got a couple errands to run. I ran them, came back, and he was just about to put it together. And he said, how long did you need it? And I said, well, he told me whatever it was. And he said, well, this is about right. It was like maybe an inch longer than what Dad had said. And I said,
Well, it had some funky fittings. It had
it had kind
weird
of odd ends. And I said, well, I'd rather it's a little long than a little short.
We can cut.
No, just put a little S in it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a single piece, high pressure hose.
And so he put it together, and I'm like, whew, I'm out of here, headed up to give it to Dad. It's a good thing he added that just tiny bit because I don't think it would have fit.
It was perfect.
And it was
Nice.
because of the way the fittings were, it made it kind of shorten up a little bit more than the old one, which maybe it was stretched to a point. I don't know,
but that executive decision you made saved.
It's better to can you imagine?
And
you get the hose, you put it on, it's
just short.
And making up a hose custom instead of buying it.
Yeah, it was like
you don't take that
price.
back.
Yeah, it was a third of the price that we could have gotten elsewhere.
Because I think that hose through John Deere is like.
And I think they had to order it, and all that.
Right.
So
well, that's the other thing too, back orders and just process of trying to get it. But then you brought up a good point of the use of phones. I didn't even think about that. Like now we can go on Amazon and we're like, or whatever the business website is, and we can share the link and we're like, here, check this out. I do it to you guys all the time now, and it's easy because then it's an automatic link to that, and you're like, oh, this is what I need. I know where it is in the store, or the department, who I need to talk to. It's way easier now.
And I'll do that. I'll take like a screenshot of it even, and then I go find a sales associate and I say, take me to this, and
take me to your leader.
Yeah.
But there's a dynamic that takes place between a spouse or two spouses, and that is, I look at things one way,
the wrong way usually.
Yeah, but
the way the male way,
things, no, seriously, but it is. There's that male female way.
And we have discussed the deficiencies of the Y chromosome on multiple times, haven't we?
No,
I live with a bunch of them, so I get to identify.
We control the remote.
Only when I let you.
So, but there's different ways of looking at things that you don't see. I mean, we just think and process things differently. And I'll be looking at something, a problem solving. She goes, well, why don't you do it this way? And I go, looking like, God, that's a great idea.
He's like the pug.
My God. Yeah, looking at you adoringly when you say I'm wrong.
That's it.
I was gonna say, wait until the pug starts scratching at the door because he knows Mom's inside the office.
I'm kind of waiting for that, actually. Yeah.
So, no,
that's true.
But there's and that's not just fabricating something or doing something. It's a lot of things where you have to make a decision, or you're trying to make something better or improvise something.
And me not having grown up in ag, Dad will do something. I'm like, so why do you do it that way? And there's always a reason. Sometimes it's a good one. Sometimes it's not. But how we always did it.
There is that story.
Do you have one off the top of your head that doesn't normally seem to make sense to you, Mom?
Because it never happens.
It happens, but I can't think of it. I just remember.
Yeah, that's why.
It's usually little things.
Yeah. But
I'm sure I improved them though.
There you go.
Of course, why not?
But I've seen women, and not just your mother, but I've seen women helping with a kid on their hip.
Mm-hmm.
Literally. I mean, you got a baby or 1 year old.
Yeah.
Those they can't be turned loose around cattle or horses by themselves. So they're literally on their hip, and women do things with one-handed all the time like that. I mean, it's just, it's damn talent.
Well, that's another thing too I didn't think of is, I know being the guy, like typically it's, hey, I got a job to do, and you just kind of forget about it. You're like, okay, the wife's got the kid. But Mom, How scary did that get to you when you had to start worrying about 2 little munchkins that were running around on their own, trying to keep them from getting into the cows and the horses and getting pushed around and stepped on?
You know how I'm constantly on Pug and Cub and saying, hey, you're with me?
The dogs.
Yeah.
It was basically like that. I was talking to you probably every 10 seconds. Oh, no. Where are you going with that? What do you have in your hand? Wouldn't you say?
That's true.
I mean,
no, that's true.
And then sometimes we would put
spit that out.
Oh, geez, no kidding.
Yeah. Mostly Brayden, not me.
Yeah, you had your moments.
He was a germaphobe then.
Yeah, you were. That's right.
No, Brayden.
Oh, right. He was when he was little. But we'd put you in places that we knew were safe. And then sometimes Grandma would say, okay, guys, you're coming with me.
Grandmas take babies a lot.
Yeah.
Which is a good deal.
Yeah. And she would take you in the house or sit on the porch kind of thing so that you're not near the feet and things. But I mean, yeah, it was scary because everything could potentially hurt you.
Kill you.
Seems like, yeah.
I mean, kill an adult. Babies, little guys don't stand a chance. But that's how you learn.
Yeah.
You're always out there too, and you get it. I think some of my earliest memories working with my mom and dad around, animals. So, I mean, it's what you do, and you learn to like it. And it's not because you learn to like it, because it's something that has to be learned. You just like it. It just becomes part of who you are. So, I mean, those things are always really good. But
I can say that we never put you in the horse trailer to keep you contained. So that's good.
A lie.
Oh, Grandpa did, but I didn't.
I didn't. I don't think I did
it. Grandpa
did. When did we do that?
Once?
Oh, for sure. We did. We definitely did it once.
You guys were naughty.
I think Brayden and I were in trouble. and then you also were like, you made it a game then. But see, when I grew up, I knew what you did. So you threw me in the trailer and you're like, here, we'll go for a fun ride. And so it was like, hey,
we didn't actually drag you in the trailer.
No.
To be clear. Okay.
You convinced me to get in the trailer, but yeah. Oh. But yes, you did do it.
I don't remember what the circumstances were. I just always know I made you sit tight when we went to the gas station.
Oh, yeah. My word. The first, do you remember that when I had my little meltdown?
I know why you would have had the meltdown, and I know what led up to it, because it was a common thing that Dad did with me and Brayden. Just don't touch anything, sit tight. But
you used to have to go into the gas station to pay.
Yeah, you don't have to do that now.
Oh.
And so it was a pain in the butt to get you out of your car seats. Everybody walks in, we pay, we go back out, we get you in the car seats.
No, we don't.
And
we just have to sit tight.
I went to the gas station with you two, and
How old were they?
2, 4. I'm gonna guess
probably 4, yeah.
And I said, okay, let's unbuckle and go pay. And Calen says, oh, we can sit tight like Dad has us to. I said, what? Dad has us sit tight. No, we're going in. So we had a talk with Dad.
No, Dad had to listen is what Dad asked. Dad did no talking.
Oh,
I didn't see a problem with it because I could see him the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
And who in the hell would want to kidnap you guys?
Oh my God, they would
They'd bring you back.
Well, the best part is normally you would have had a trailer on the back of the pickup. So much like today with a standard transmission, people have to be able to know how to drive a trailer. So there's half that problem too.
Little kids don't care what's behind them.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying if someone were to take off with them.
Right.
Your dad was in trouble.
Yeah, I was in trouble. But I've watched women literally during branding have a baby, like you said, on their hip and using a vaccinating gun at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, that was the next thing too, is vaccines. Like that's where the the vaccinating part comes in, and then like record keeping, because that's a role that mom and grandma have done since I was little. Is, hey, they're sticking on while everybody's moving around, pushing cows and tagging and branding, doing some of the more important stuff. Not that vaccinating is important. It's just one of those things that really takes a dedicated person. And grandma and mom have always been there with pen in hand and the vaccinating gun in the other. And they're looking at each other, double checking constantly. Okay, this one has a vaccine. This one's got it. Okay, now they go through. Okay, this one, they're tagging it, or they're recording it and making sure they're getting everything done. And there's been times where if there's any question, mom goes, nope, stop. and she's the person that's like, okay, quality assurance, quality control. Did we get everything done? And you're like, yep. We still are missing one vaccine.
and my problem is, if I don't see it happen, I think it hasn't. So,
right.
which, I mean, we don't want to miss somebody.
But you double check, and anybody can stop anything at any time.
Yeah.
For any reason,
Now, a new record keeping I started was now that we got the Google.
Yeah.
But with Google Sheets and all the sharing that you do, one of the perks of being a teacher, I've learned some technology against my will, and I'm getting mostly adept, and don't you say a word, at the use of it. And Sheets I can do. Hey, knock it off. You're not any
I'm not claiming to be any
ace in the hole there, buddy. I'll tell you. But so now what I do is I've got every one of our cows, and I've got a list of record of their births, bull, heifer, date, and then comments. Like Braden's got an asterisk next to the mean moms, the ones that are a little more possessive
on the calving
of babies, but for a longevity of a herd, now we can see, is there a cow that's really producing outstanding calves for maybe heifer replacement, or is she having trouble? Is there a pattern we're seeing that's like a genetic pattern we don't want to carry on? So,
well, I mean,
that's
like with us, twins have been a common occurrence since we got that one bull that had been a twin.
So,
and then feet issues are another thing that we've been slowly trying to get rid of, and
we've
that's
gotten
pretty
rid
helpful.
of that. But like the twin issue, I did a little research on that. Twin births happen approximately 2% of the time, and we have hit right dead on 2%.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep, because I was thinking, gee, same thing. That one bull, he was a twin, and was he throwing, twins?
That extra gene.
I think it's just the natural occurrence of twins after looking at that, because we thought the same thing, and that's the reason I started tracking all the cows, was to see whether or not we had a twin gene type of thing.
A really formal tracking.
Because I was going to say, up until
like the depth that you do.
Yeah, well, because Dad uses a book in his breast pocket, and that's not good enough, because that can get torn to pieces, and that can also, it's a source of documentation, but it's not a very good continuous source.
So see, and it's really hard to go back through that and figure out what's happened. So now it's kind of nice using Sheets that way.
Yeah, because when I'm at the ranch, and Mom's down here, and we need to look at something, we can both get on there, or you can get on there where you're at, and it really is handy.
That is the nice thing about Google, is the fact that you can have multiple access points and be able to, as a business, look at it and
in real time,
have real time, as you're working together and collaborating, and being able to look at the same information and know that it's the same version, version control and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, and because of that, I think I'm around those cows a lot more than you are.
Mm-hmm.
But I think those cows, a lot of them, as well as I do.
I think
from that aspect,
yeah, that's true.
And sometimes you'll tell me stuff, and you'll dig it up. It's like, oh, she's right. Okay.
The little details that can help with making a decision of whether you keep a cow or not.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always the gross morphology of, okay, how's she look? What's she doing? What's that calf? Because I'm always watching it. What's that calf look like? But when you've got that historical knowledge from the last 4 or 5 calves, that helps when it comes down to, okay, do we or don't we? you refer to that and like, okay, she stays, or nope, she's
Yeah.
going. We gave her a chance. She goes.
Yeah.
So there's always that, but that's a lot of the work that you do.
Yeah,
On that.
more behind the scenes kinds of things.
Yeah.
I point my finger a little bit too.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Get sore pointing.
Yes.
I pulled one last week.
Pulled a finger pointing
pulled
for me.
The middle one. The middle
no
finger.
kidding. No doubt.
No, I don't do that.
Told me I was number one.
So to go down a rabbit hole real quick, it's interesting that you said, and I guess this can go down a more substantive subject of researcher, because sometimes we just don't know things like, hey, can you start looking this stuff up because we're curious. But you said you got interested into the twins thing because the same thing, we always just assumed it was the bull throwing a twin genetic out there, and it's 2% of the population. That's interesting that you say that, because I don't remember ever seeing twins until I was like a junior, senior in high school. Granted, we had a smaller herd up until then, but up to that point, we never had twins.
Well, the part of that was, though, that we still had a little bit smaller herd, and we were throwing some twins that was more than that 2% average too. And that's what I thought about, and it was
right, because we were growing still.
Right.
Because I think we've had a twin every year for the last 5 or 6.
There was 2 years ago. I think.
I thought I was gonna say last year, the year before, there were no twins.
Because she slipped on the ice and lost them.
Right.
About 3 weeks early.
And the one before, we did actually have one. I think she'd lost one, and the other one was there. And I found it, early in the morning.
That's right. Yeah. And
then I think coyotes had gotten to it too. Yeah. So I don't know whether it had died because it was little, or the coyotes had gotten to it. I don't know, because they'll often, these cows will have 2 calves, and they won't keep these calves together. They will take one and move it.
The stronger, or the one that they think might be stronger.
Right. And sometimes it's the smaller one. You don't know, but they will separate those calves. And some cows she'll support both calves. She'll just make one stay where it's at. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'll move back and forth between them. It's crazy. It's like, well, God, you're stupid. Why do you do that?
It'd be easier to keep them together.
More work on yourself.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know, unless they're, separating them in case of predators, where you only lose one instead of 2.
I was going to say, and that would be a good adaptation possibility. So.
Right. I don't know, but to get back to the for instance of how much work is done, say the single event of branding,
right?
Mom starts days in advance. People will ask, hey, we'd like to come out, can we help you brand? Sure, we'll do that. And
normally family, friends who know when roughly that, hey, end of May, early June's when we're gonna brand, so let's try and reach out to them like, hey, we enjoy being part of the process, so can we come join? That's kind of how it works.
Right. And so, well, yeah, you bet. And then, so she starts planning how many people we got. Oh, did I get the vaccine? How many doses of vaccine do we need? What all do we have to do?
New ear tags.
Through just the process. Yeah. And then, okay.
Are all the parts that we need functional? Like that table that got hit by a cow that had to be fixed,
right.
What are we going to eat?
Or the head catch, because there's been times where the head catch got blown off, so that we had to do a quick patch job on it.
Right.
So there's a lot of things like that take place that normally, if it's an equipment repair or something like that, I'm doing it. But
that's a finger pointing.
Right there. But she's like, hey, did you get that done? Right. So there's a lot of that. But then they're planning a meal the night before. She has cooked meals the night before, and then had it ready, and then, mostly done. And then you get it so you can finish it. And a lot of times they'll be in the middle of branding, and just, a half hour before, 45 minutes before we're ready to finish, they kind of like their job and give it to somebody else, or, pass it on and say, I got to go get some help. Or they'll grab somebody else and say, hey, can you come help me? And so they'll grab somebody else, another woman that's there, or one of the girls, and they go get the meal ready. They've just gone from, vaccinating a cow or pushing cows up a chute or record keeping to now they're putting on a meal for.
We usually wash our hands before we get into the meal part.
I mean, it's preferred, but it's not required.
Yeah, there you go. What you don't know won't hurt you. And so they're doing that. And then we're all done. And that's when, I'll usually have a little beer for somebody and never have beer on hand while we're doing that. That's a no-no as far as I'm concerned. Afterwards, absolutely. But I've seen too many wrecks and too many bad things happen.
Well, because bad things can happen when you're.
Well, and that's something I think you and I will discuss at some point, because we've got it in the paper to like talk about in depth at some point. But that's something that I've seen other people do where, okay, 2 or 3 30 racks of Coors Light as people are throwing irons on calves and they're walking around with needles. I'm like, that's just a bad idea. It's just, there's just something. Yeah. There's just something not a good idea with that.
No. So, we finish up a meal. Then there's always the cleanup, and a lot of people, the gals help with the cleanup and get things. They knock that stuff out in a hurry.
I try to do a lot of it so it's disposable, honestly.
Yeah.
Just because.
Well, when you have bigger groups, it's a lot easier to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's giving those cows and calves a chance to mother up again, and that's usually we will sort, and she's part of the sorting ahead of time about, okay, we're taking these cows to summer pasture. These cows are going to stay and they're going to go to this pasture, so we'll separate them at that time. And then we get these calves together after they've branded. We separate them, segregate them then as we're branding. And it's a little more work right there, a little slower, but it saves a ton of time later.
Yeah.
And then after we're done, some people, they're just there for the branding and they go home, and then here we are. Now we're moving some cows. Especially the ones to just a short, a mile or so.
Yeah, because everybody knows where they're going.
Right, or mile and a half, and you just move them out, get them mothered up, which is, I know, your favorite part to do. Well, while she's watching and supervising what's going on, but you got to do that. Get them to pasture, and then come back, and then you put everything away. Your branding pots, your irons are cooled off. Everything is done, and vaccines are either used up or disposed of. I mean, there's all these things.
One of my favorite things is when your dad will say, "Oh, on Saturday, you and I are going to go move the cows to blah, blah, blah." Seriously? Don't you think we could ask somebody to help us with that? Just one extra person
asking for help.
And he doesn't want to ask for help. And I'm like,
I'm the same way.
One more person is all I'm asking. Could you ask so-and-so? No, we can do it.
And we do it. We get it done.
It usually works out fine. However, I should probably ask for anti-anxiety medicine on these days because I'm just so stressed out. And I'm like, all right, cows, just follow me. Okay. Because I'm the Pied Piper.
Yeah, that's true. And that's another part of your thing is you keep these cows tuned up to where they
like
love
their treat.
Yeah, they love to come to cow cake and a white bucket shaken.
Ears has helped show them the way as well. Don't
Yes, she has. Yeah. And she has a couple of very, very diligent followers and proteges.
Number 34, number 66.
Oh my gosh.
They're pretty good.
But he'll be, we're going to do this. The two of us are going to do this. Yeah, it'll be fine. Famous last words. It'll be fine.
It's only a couple hours. All day long.
Oh, that's a lie. That is a flat out every time lie. We're gonna go do this, and it's a couple hours. 6-8 hours later. Yeah, it was a couple hours.
Or there's a couple times where you and I look at each other, Mom and Dad's got 6 or 7 things laid out, and we're like, two. We're gonna walk away with 2 of them done.
Yeah.
You guys aren't wrong. I mean, it's just like
yes, Dad is an overly estimates what he thinks we will achieve in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I would say that. So to circle back though, Dad was saying a lot, and I bring this up because this was a subject of discussion and debate when I was in school, and I'll start off with the course was gender in the West. It was in the gender studies and
I
in
remember that.
Montana State when I was going through history and stuff like that. And something that was brought up, Dad kept saying the girls would help with cooking and cleaning, and Mom and Grandma will help cook and set things up and prep for taking care of the crew. And that was something that was brought up in my course because we discussed a lot about how, trying to be each side male and female has their own roles in culture and stuff like that, but we as a American society and as a world society are starting to try and blend the two into one. And it was interesting because somebody said, well, what's an example for you that just doesn't happen? I was like, I'll tell you, like, growing up working on the ranch, that's not the same. Now, that's not to say that the women can't do any of the physical work or anything like that, but a lot of the times, especially growing up as a young male, we just happen to start getting more muscle and stronger. And so it's like, there's no point. You might as well have our logistical supply in a sense. Yeah. You have the stronger people out there working and the women helping with the cooking because we still need to be fed. And so a lot of the times,
and even like
equally important.
I think
yes,
of other jobs, well, like fencing. Okay, I'll give that as an example. If you're putting up just a T-post, steel post, I can carry them and drop them at the appropriate spots, and I can pound them in mostly, but it takes me forever to get a T-post in compared to you guys. Yeah. So time efficiency, it's better if I drop them, you guys come behind me and put them in the ground, right?
Well, and when we're working together, I'll pound and I'll just keep going until it's like, oh my God, my hands are cramping.
And then I'll pound it.
And then basically give me a break instead of not doing something and wasting time, which isn't a waste of time for her, but she feels like it is if she's not contributing, or she could be doing something. So she'll grab that thing and she'll try to pound a post down. And
and something that I brought up to them was not just, that's a good example, but another big one is we're doing the heavy machinery and we have where the big tire trough is. Beforehand, we had those big posts that we were emplacing as the overheads, and the amount of heavy metal that was down there and it was swinging around. We want as few people down there as possible because more people equals more chances of getting hurt. You didn't have the strength. And then the other thing was we were down there all day, and yes, there was water there, but it was nice to have somebody go into the house and grab a cold drink of water, like a water bottle, and bring it down to us, or bring a cooler and then go cook. And that way we could still just keep working without stopping. And then when you said, hey, lunch is ready, we would go another hour, and then we would come in and eat. And
there's another story.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, like, that was my point in that class and with those discussions was, like Dad said, the roles are different, but they are equally as important, because we would not be able to work and continue doing what we were doing without the water and the food, because we were busy trying to use the muscle, essentially.
You'd have to be interrupting the job. And usually when we're doing a job, getting it done faster is the optimum. We're not making this a week-long project.
But how many times have I had you hold something?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Or apply pressure with a bar, or just put something in a
There's even been a couple times where we both had to pull on a wrench because something was too tight.
Yeah, I mean,
you just needed a little bit
extra. A little bit more. But times have changed from the time I was a little kid. I can remember being in the ranch house in the place north, and I was, oh my God, I couldn't have been 4 or 5 years old. Some of my early memories.
You're good at dialogue, so keep going.
Okay, and looking out that great big old antique window with the beveled glass, and it was just wavy, but you could see what was going on out there, and watching my dad and grandpa's uncles bringing in cattle, bringing them into the yard, down to the corrals, and I was in with the women because I was just a little guy. And so my great grandmother, when I was very, very little, those roles were pretty defined, and women were not allowed down.
Well, your mom even said that when she was a girl, her dad would not allow the girls down in the corral.
Correct. Women, that was not a place for women. No.
And that might be different depending on the family too, because there are some where the girls went out on the range, and they did help collect cattle and that. But
gathering is one thing.
Well, I suppose.
In a pasture, but when you have the things in a corral.
Well, I remember your mom said your dad wouldn't let those girls go down there if there was anybody breeding.
Right.
That was a big no-no.
There are things that happen in corrals that, especially with horses during breeding season, that women shouldn't see these things. And it was, I mean, and that was my great grandmother. And then as
and I used to teach those things.
Boy, howdy, I learned a lot.
No. I was a biology teacher once.
Yeah, that's what it was. Anyway, and I was a doctor. Remember those? Anyway, no. But they were not to see those things. Those were male dominated. Only men can see this. This is our gender roles were the fairer sex should not be exposed to these things. However, at night when the candles were extinguished, the same kind of stuff was going on. You know damn well. Yeah. You know, I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But they were not. But it was in polite company. Works. You taught me that. Yeah, no candles, no lights. No candles. Okay. So those things changed then as I got a little bit older, and then pretty soon, my grandmother.
Do you think that was the hippie movement in the 70s that did that?
I think it was. Yeah, the big thing in the 70s was the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, and that was a big political push by women for they were equal. And there were some things that were, you know, like jobs, pay. Certainly there were some things that were not equal then that have been rectified. And I think, you know, like the Title IX stuff in schools, those were all certainly good things that come out of that, and that were, I think, you know, they were needed, they were necessary. But you took a culture that where you had a lot of people on a place and a lot of men, they were getting the work done. And now, as we've talked about before, our ability to do things and still make money has gotten tight and tighter, and you have to use every tool you have. And if you can't hire somebody, that work really falls on the women of the family. So I think it was driven that way on one way as a necessity. And the other thing was culturally. But, you know, during the homestead days, there were a ton of women that were right alongside their husbands, especially farming, that were doing everything they could to support a guy who's got a team of horses in front of some plowshares or harrows or buck rakes, you know. And so they were supporting in that way. So I think some things changed, but those roles were specific outside of like the breeding of animals. So, I mean, there was that. But then even as my grandmother got older, our great grandmother, God, she died when she was just short of her 102nd birthday. But, you know, when she was in her 80s, she was out there at least taking a look at what was going on and kind of supervising, you know, what was happening. So, because grandpa was leasing the place from her. So that changed even in her lifetime. And don't kid yourself, she was, you know, fully capable of doing whatever she needed to get done.
Another thing is, I mentioned this in my little opening statements, but mom is like a salesman in a sense, saleswoman, because you, especially when I was growing up and I wasn't skilled enough to get horses into gates and whatnot, you had to be the one on the horse showing how it would gate and how it would perform with the ropes and stuff. Mom will ride on occasion, but it's on occasion. But you're not skilled enough with the rope. None of us are skilled with the rope, but you are even worse than us, which is pretty hard to believe. And
thank you, but it's true.
Then
no, I just don't ride enough. I don't have that skill level.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing too is you're not the one that worked the horse either. We are. And so you were always there, and grandma too. When we would go to the Nile and we have our booth and we'd be out in the corrals showing what's going on. You two were always there, essentially in a way giving the pitch and being the face to the horse business, where everybody else, dad and grandpa, were there riding and showing what the product could do, the horse could do.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Want to go through that and kind of the importance of that?
Yeah, we were sitting there explaining, like, if people were not familiar with gaits, what the gaits were, and personality of the horse, especially if it was like a horse that was for sale. We would talk about personality, what kind of a rider would be best, and a lot of that's based on what Dad told me, but also what I could see, because almost every horse that he finished, I would ride, because I didn't start riding horses until Braden was 5.
Yeah.
Because I was needing to keep you guys
You had a baby on the hip.
Out of the corral.
Right.
And so I started learning how to ride. And so I'm definitely a novice rider. And yet I was getting on 2 and 3-year-old colts when Dad would get finished, because then he'd say, this one is good for a novice. And then I would go out and ride it as kind of a verification, but also so that I could say, hey, this is what I experienced. And I'm like very novice. And for me, these things were hard about the personality of the horse that I needed to figure out. And so I think that helped, because a lot of people that we have sold horses to are in that novice to intermediate level. And so I was a good gauge as to what level of noviceness or intermediate that would best fit the horse. And then it also, like Dad said, would give depth to the horse, where they have to learn somebody else other than himself on their back. But I mean, I would try to help as much as I could, just because of time, with helping Dad. Like when he was a game warden, he'd come home and we really, really needed the money. So he'd have a couple horses here to train, and I would pull them up to the corral or get them out of the corral, whichever the case was, brush them down, saddle them, so that by the time he came home, all he had to do is come home, change clothes, grab a drink. He'd go out for a ride on a horse, come back, swap horses. And
that one summer, I was training 6 horses at once.
6 horses.
And if it hadn't been for you,
I think he had like 3, no more than 3 here at a time. But yeah, well, because doing all that's a good half hour's work.
I had 2 that I was just starting that I wasn't riding yet.
Right.
2 that I was riding, and after their groundwork was done.
And then when they were gone,
But then I had 2 that I was finishing. I had 6 horses every day that I was trying to work, and you were saddling and doing all of those for me. And then, I mean, I couldn't have got it done without it.
And then I'd go out and, talk to him and do some things with him on the groundwork when he was gone, just to help there. And then he made me train my mare. Oh my gosh. So
for the record, I don't make her do anything.
He told me, Lisa, this would be a really good experience for you to go through the training process, so you understand when people have questions. Yeah, anyway. So I was like, you know what? I'm game. I mean, why not? And so we should go back to the name. Her name was Jezebel. That should say something about her personality.
And you wonder why I have superstitious issues.
And she was a beautiful mare, and she really was a good girl. But he had to be gone for training, and he was gone for like a week, 10 days. And he said, she's at a crucial point where I need to be putting the saddle up on her back, so she's getting used to it. And
just stacking her with a saddle.
Yeah, stacking her with a saddle. And I said, okay. I said, so what exactly do you want me to do at this point? And he said, well, get that really light saddle, and it's probably 12, 15 pounds, and just put it up on top of her, and then let it kind of fall, and he's kind of telling me, and I've watched him do it a million times. So I was like, okay. I said, so how many times do I do that each time I go out to work with her? Like 10, 15 times on a side is good. And he said, within a day, she's going to be great. You do that 3 times in a day. By the next day, she's going to be settling down. You'll
notice it.
You'll notice it. Okay. So the first day, she was not very happy about this, but we did this 2 or 3 times that first day. Next day, still not having much to do with this. And I mean, I'm having a hard time just even getting the saddle close to her.
And I had not gotten her to this point yet. I had just sacked her.
And I had sacked her, and I had sacked her a lot.
I'd put the saddle on a couple of times, but that was it.
And Dad, was following up with me on the lessons so that everything was all good, right? And anyway, he calls and he says, "So how's that saddle sacking going?" "Not worth a darn." "What do you mean? Are you doing it?" "Yes, I am doing it. I've gone out there 3 times and to the T." And he's like, "Well, you're doing something wrong." "No, I'm not doing something wrong."
I love how that's where you go right away. You're doing something right. It's all about you.
Yeah.
It's usually your fault. It's usually something you're doing.
And
okay, well, when it comes to sacking a horse, not always, but okay.
Well, yeah, but
so anyway, we go through this, and he said, "Just keep at it. It's gonna work," and gave me some more tips. All right, a couple more days go. It's not getting any better. And he called. "Yep, still the same." "Well, you got to be doing something wrong. This just doesn't happen like this, Lisa. Within a couple days, if you're doing it right, this horse should be much better, much improved." "Is she improving at all?" "Nope, not really. She's not improving." So I continue with what I was doing. He gets home and he said, and I told him the progress report. And, in his mind, he knows I've screwed something up. He's going to have to go out there and fix it. Right? Yeah.
Mostly. Yeah.
So next day, he gets out there. "Oh, she did exactly the same thing to him that she did to me. Oh, it wasn't me. Huh. It was her." And Dad, he says he threw that saddle on her at least 1,000 times
a day.
Not a day.
No, I mean
over the course of it.
Yeah.
But he had to throw that saddle up 1,000 times on each side to get her finally to settle down. And it was her thing. Whatever it was, that was her thing, because everything else was fine.
She was a great mare.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But all of her ponies were like that too.
They did not want to accept a saddle like that.
My point being, they would get to a point, a specific spot in their training or in their personality,
and they just said
they would
done.
Stop just like that, dead stop, halt, everything. Nope, not doing it. And then all of a sudden, you would get them to what we call roll, and perfect afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, they'll all do that, but they kind of took that to a whole nother level of no, I don't want to. Yeah, no, that's true.
Golden Boy, I got to finish training him. He was like that. Getting the saddle on him was not the problem. It was being in the saddle that was the problem.
And he didn't have any buck in him, though.
No, but there was that feeling. And if you've ever been there, you know what I mean. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And I was ready for a powerhouse to blow up underneath of me. And it never did. Actually, no, twice. It did happen twice. I never got thrown out, though. And after that, once he figured it out, he was good from there.
He was fine. Yeah. And that was her. But, oh, geez, the conversation we had. It's like, no, seriously, this is not working, Brandon. So there's a little bit of that. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it my way. So it must be wrong. That we have to overcome periodically.
Yeah.
He's getting a little better, but not really.
Well, you said that was also helpful because it helped relate to the customer when you were doing the sales pitch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think also looking back at it more, and especially now as a man, like having a woman there, because we provide, in a sense, pleasure riding horses. Now, our horses are also for using. We can use them for on, ranch and stuff like that. But
packing.
The majority of our clientele, packing. The majority of our clientele is there for, I just want to go on a trail ride and I want to enjoy going on a field, whatever it is. I just want to be on a ride. And
honestly, most of our clients are female.
And that's what I was going to say. Because of that, I think a lot of our clients are female, and having a woman there as the salesperson or as another person there that's not just a man, I think that was a huge help in the business.
Yeah, that's probably true.
That's a good point. Yeah. But, if you, impossible to be there, but when the first time I took your mother to the ranch, we had a new colt that I had, and I
took pictures.
She took pictures.
They were black and white.
Yeah. And she says, "Oh my God," because this colt is like a week old. Dad,
she was so
Dad
cute.
had given me this colt because I mean we just had a deal worked out. He goes, "Yeah, this one's yours." Okay, so this is great. And he says, and she says, "So what are you going to do with it? It's so cute, this little baby." I said, "Well, I'm going to raise it, train it, and sell it." And she goes, "What? You can't do that." And I said, "Look, if this thing works out between us, and we've been dating for a little while, not that all that long."
Yeah,
I said,
a few months.
"Yeah," I said, if this thing works out, you're going to have to get used to this, and this is what we do." And she just looked at me. I said, "Well, I mean, that's just the way it is." How old was that horse when?
She 25.
Something like that. Yeah, and she produced a lot of colts. So I, right off the bat, I was hoodwinked. I lost that argument. But look what she's come so far in her knowledge of what, and all of the things that she's done. There's no way in the world I could ever done what I've done without your mother being there, from day one. I mean, it could not have happened. It would, I don't know what I would do.
I'm the guiding light.
There you are. But, there's a song I think of and I tell her this, this is not an easy life. It really isn't.
No.
And you're working every day, you do something and you're working. It's the rare day that you just don't do that much. And we try to work those in, and especially with her at school, because on weekends, she's correcting papers, she's doing lesson plans, she's building, especially with this bullshit COVID thing,
PowerPoints,
to put online. But all of these things that she has done over the years, I don't think she fully realizes the impact. I don't think most women do, because they're always busy. Most of them this is what they do. They are in such a support role in a lot of these things. And she is a co-owner. She does it, and I rely on her thinking, her reasoning, and her approach to long-term, okay, what will this do? I mean, she provides such a fantastic thing for that. And I sometimes feel bad because, like, oh God, what have I done with her? I mean, there's a Waylon Jennings song that I tell her often. Do I not?
Yeah, you do.
And it's Amanda, God should have made you a gentleman's wife. It would have been a hell of a lot easier life.
Probably. I wouldn't have had the fuzzies.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you did have a herd of about 100 to 120 at any given time of big babies. So
yeah,
true.
That's
true. True. God.
So you get to go pet the fuzzies.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
silly.
It's something you just can't do without them. I mean, and there is every woman out there in ag. There's only
because we know people down the road, good friends of ours, who they farm, and she's in that machine as much as he is. And when he was working in law enforcement, she was on the machine farming when he was working, and then he'd come home and get in another one, and the both of them would go, and they raise cattle, and they have crops, and she works harder than anybody I ever knew. I mean, and all the time. And there's a lot of people we know like that.
Yeah. There's only one family I know of that has a smaller operation like that she doesn't do anything. And that's a rare exception. Doesn't do anything on their farm and ranch, but has a job in town.
Right.
And most women.
And there's the insurance part of it.
Right.
Most ag families, there's a spouse in town that's working, probably primarily for insurance now than anything else.
Yeah, that's a true statement.
So you got to have it.
Well, like I wrote in one of my short stories, there's always a behind a successful farmer or rancher is a wife in town.
That's
true.
Right.
I've seen that over more than one kitchen stove in houses.
Many.
And it's there to remind everybody, and rightly so.
Yeah.
So I think with that, we'll wrap it up. To all of those who are viewing, happy Valentine's Day. To all the women out there and all the spouses, have a wonderful day with your significant other. And we appreciate you.
Chocolate's always good.
Yeah, chocolate's always good. Mom, do you want to sign us off?
You know how we do this?
And with that, we'll go out to pasture.
No.
No.
What do I normally tell people at branding time?
Thank you till you're better paid.
There you go.